Welcome everyone to NFTs in the Arena. It's 2023. Happy New Year. Jono, what's going on, man? Happy New Year.
What's happening, Mikey? And peeps out there, Happy New Year. Rock and roll. I'm so excited for 2023, bro.
In the YouTube world.
Yeah.
I
I
love
should
it.
actually find a word for that.
Yeah, I suppose you could talk about the Matrix, as our friend Andrew Tate was always referred to. You had interesting tweet today regarding that. We can also get into that.
Yeah.
So, 2023, if you're listening for the first time, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. John has been like Kanye, deleting tweets. You shouldn't be doing that.
No, not the tweet itself. I just took it off as a story. I don't want to create animosity.
That's fair. All right, so perfect way to start our first episode of 2023. I think this year we want to put a lot more emphasis on the content we put out, speak to what the audience want to hear and listen to, and naturally always delving into everything that's around sports and the technicalities around NFTs, cryptocurrencies, and what's just generally going on in the world. And I think today, and the title of the podcast will effectively be, is how social influence is having an impact on facets of sports, cryptocurrency, NFTs, and what it truly means to have the modern day influencer getting involved in an unregulated market like we've seen, and the influence that individuals like Sam Bankman-Fried can have on the crypto market, or on how individuals like Logan Paul can create Crypto Zoo, online game, which is effectively a pay-to-play model. How he started that, took so much money from his followers, and essentially left that project behind. Whether it's true or not, I think there's a lot of things like that, and we'll get into that. So people that are listening and that are pretty much prevalent on YouTube or watching this content will know that there's this huge beef between CoffeeZilla, who's another YouTuber, and Logan Paul. And then the last thing that I was thinking about is talking about influence. So these guys that hold stature, they held influence, have millions of followers. Then I was also looking at, from the sports sector and the sports side, I was looking at Cristiano Ronaldo. He created his own NFT collection a few weeks ago. I think actually during the World Cup on Binance. And I was actually just trying to see how well it's fared. There wasn't too much information on how well it's doing. But the point of that now is seeing how he's transitioned now from European football to the Saudi Arabia League. And obviously coming at a very good time during the World Cup, having NFTs, now going to a league where he's going to be the highest paid player in the world, $200 million or pounds a year, I think it's dollars. And just the influence around how these individuals are pushing this industry and are in their own right creating different perceptions and opinions around the projects that they've been working on. So the first thing that I wanted to get into, Jono, and is this whole thing with Logan Paul. And I found a video from a YouTuber. His name's XQC. I'll put his link actually in our description. He's obviously got a shit ton of followers, but the way he's viewing this video now, and it's just a cool video that I found that basically will explain to our audience what this whole Crypto Zoo thing was that Logan Paul had created. And also just to keep in mind is that he had created, I think, a meme coin early on that was also very much a failure. But in this video, you'll see how much money, and whether that's true or not, I don't really have an opinion on it. I just think it's interesting to see how these guys, these young guys, especially very young guys, are shaping the way in which the new form of, or the new monetary system will actually be. And it's obviously great opportunities for them, making lots of money, but they're also now creating avenues in which the feds and the governments can come in and get it and regulate it, which may in the end have a negative impact on individuals like us that are just normal day people, right? Everyone that I've actually been researching around this whole play to get paid, there's a lot of negativity around it. So the reason why I wanted to show that now is I don't really have an opinion on Logan Paul or this CoffeeZilla, but what I'm starting to see is this trend of how these massive influences, and it happened a lot last year where celebrities, particularly that one famous porn star that created NFT collection, made all the money, and actually never stood up to offering the utility, whatever that may have been that she wanted to do. So
I
I
remember
wanted to
hearing
get
about
your thoughts. Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts and see how individuals like Logan Paul, that has millions of people on YouTube, are effectively taking the piss out of people, but people still follow these guys. And it goes to what a lot of, I think, these guys that are fighting this whole feminist movement, call it that are arguing that society is trying to make men weaker. I think Andrew Tate speaks about this a lot, but how these guys are like shaping the future and allowing people to accept being taken basically for an ass and still following him. Like, what messages is it sending to people?
Yeah, look, it's quite an interesting take because, like, yes, if you have a lot of clout and influence and followers, I think it's a somewhat a no-brainer. Like, dudes like this have managers and stuff like that are directing them into the space, saying, listen, you can make a lot of money, you can create a legacy, you can have a long-term, forever, for that matter, where you can retain your brand in this metaverse for yonks, bro. And I think a lot of people are trying to, it's like moving liquidity from one state to another state, like an ecosystem, for instance, moving your ETH into an NFT. The economic energy is still there, but people are seeing that it's more, or should I say, it's a better option for the longevity of their family, their brand, to try and get into the space as quick as possible. But obviously, it comes with a lot of naivety, because that is people's money that's at play, and there are people that are going to trade crypto, so they're going to short it, they're going to do many things to try and manipulate outcomes that's beneficial for a trader. So yes, a dude like Logan Paul can come to the table and say, listen, I'm launching this play-to-earn game, and millions and millions of people that are following him are like, cool, I can earn money from playing a game, let me join. But then you get big guys in the space that just go and accumulate all that funding, and then and this is perhaps what's happened. And a dude like Logan Paul might not be there to be blamed, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's his intention to steal from his followers. So yeah, I think there's a lot of back and forth, perhaps online, to try and stipulate that he's in a position that he didn't do anything bad, and to try and not harm his followers. But there are going to be people that are tainted and say, this sucks a douchebag, he fucked me, I lost money, and yeah, I'm not going to follow you no more. But then again, like you posed that question, people are still following individuals despite their scrutiny and how they, like, for instance, SBF. Dude, the dude's still got followers on Twitter. It's not like they just left him. He's still got a lot of clout and influence despite what he's done. Yeah.
And that's a good point. And you touched on two things that I wanted to bring up today. So the one which you touched on now, and we'll get to SPF, is essentially the scrutiny in which someone that is typically on their way or is already famous will always experience throughout their career. You see it happen to celebrities, you see it happen to sports stars. For example, going back to the comment that I brought up about Cristiano Ronaldo, him having moved to the Saudi Arabia League now, which is a massive downstep. Some people call it the Farmers League. But the point is that everyone's like, why is he going there? He's going there for the money. Meanwhile, the guy is 38. He's achieved everything that you can achieve, but the World Cup, particularly in Europe, he's won everything. He's been one of the best players ever, arguably. And now he's gone to the tail end of his career, like you were saying now, to generate a significant amount of wealth that will at least last for generations of his family. And people forget that, right? People think that a lot of these rich guys, they have more than enough money. But these guys are obviously at a different wavelength and something that we can never actually comprehend, where they actually understand the value of money more than most people do. And the importance of having money that can be exponentially grown and money that can last. Because you have that kind of money, you're spending it just as quick as you're earning it, right? But I think a lot of people, if they were put in the position as he was, would take the same route he has done. He has nothing left to prove. But the point is, like now with Logan Paul, whatever out there, it's because he's somewhat of a controversial individual, like Andrew Tate is also, is that he's coming under scrutiny. And like you're saying, he probably didn't have the intention of going into this to mess up or to fuck over his followers. But the thing is, what probably happened is someone maybe made him a bet, or maybe he overthought the success of it, or purely maybe just didn't understand the technology around it. Because maybe some people had lied to him. You don't even really know the truth. And I think a lot of people that are potentially listening to this will have a completely different opinion to this. And that's the whole point of us doing this podcast, is really just to verbalize what we see and have some form of an opinion on it, whether it's right or wrong, and always sometimes play devil's advocate. So like you say now, he's under so much scrutiny now, but the following is there. But talking to your point around Sam Bankman-Fried, people are following him on Twitter still to see what he comes out with now. Because that's something that I wanted to talk to you about today. He's pleaded not guilty to all these charges. And the crazy thing is that he only has 8 charges against him. One of them is moving customer funds out of FTX to Alameda and amongst other things. But now he's not pleading guilty. And why do you think he's saying that? Because his legal team truly believes that his influence on not only the Republican side and the Democrat side in government, where he gave them, I think, $40 million, that influence that he has there is coming into the case now, where they believe that his legal team at least believe that if you say you're not guilty, you're now going the hard route now. And when I saw that today, I was surprised, because the other people that he had on his team, I think his co-founder, that Asian guy, I can't remember his name, but he pleaded guilty, and so did that CEO of Alameda plead guilty to some of the charges. Yes. So for now, the top honcho to come out and say that, he must know something, or they must have told him something that would give him reason to believe, or he's just maybe that naive.
That's the thing, dude. Like, how much of it is all this just a big show? And if you look at just engagement statistics, like, should I say, negative news just generates better engagement. It's just how it works. Controversial news, the same story. And like, if you look at Twitter primarily, you'll look the people that do well on Twitter are the people that cause shit. And when you look at that deeply, it's a natural thing. Like, it's not like people are making up the crap. They're just being super honest about how they feel. So, we could talk and we could speak to some dude and he can have an opinion, but you'd be submissive in not rejecting that person in the moment and just letting it run. Whereas with Twitter, in that same conversation, the person that disagreed will probably say, I disagree, but with a tone that's in a way controversial. It's not going to be like, I disagree with you, and this is why, a smiley face. No, it's like, nah, bro. And that's how the engagement's working. And this is exactly what happens with these guys like SBF and that. This shit works for media. It makes money. It sells freaking newspapers, or if that's around still, it sells ad space, whatever the case may be. It just generates money. And this is what I think the main reason for a lot of shit that goes down and how it actually pans out. Like, for instance, with SBF, like, yes, he's got probably big plugs in the system. And with that being said, all those plugs might have hands in other systems that are benefiting from, one, his release, or two, him pleading not guilty, whatever. These things generate cash. And for however long they pull it out, because who knows? If he goes spot free, is people really going to go and like toy outside his house and go and kill him? I think it's a couple months and then it's back to normal. That's just how quick this world works now. People are forgetting things that are actually very substantially bad or good just because of the nature of the attention. Like, we're just constantly going. And this is what's making media loving life right now.
I think you put that so well, that obviously, we always know what gets the clickbait, what gets the views. You see it even when you're out in a club environment or an outdoor activity and you see a fight. Everyone is drawn towards the fight. No one's just turning it back and saying, okay, cool, those two guys are having it at each other. Let's carry on like that. everyone focused, and that's always how it's been, and that's how it always will be. And you're quite right. The guys that are brave enough to go onto spaces like Twitter or even Instagram, whatever it may be, and verbalize their opinion, that's typically not even wrong or even seen bad by most of the population, but this small, minute part of the population, whether it's whatever activist there may be across the various spectrums, whether it's racial, whether it's across sexes, whatever it may be, is that I think there's always going to be a time where there's a person that's opposing it, or at least making people think about what they actually believe in. The same thing now with COVID and all the vaccines and like what's coming out of the Twitter files. That's Elon Musk is unraveling as we go along. But like you're saying, they're releasing all this information about how the FBI, how the Democrats, how the Republicans were forcing the Twitter executives to censor certain information that didn't go or didn't fit their tune. But they're releasing this information. If you think about it, it's like massive issue. They lied to a lot of the population in order to get them to do something to hide an agenda. So, like in South Africa, when the COVID happened and the government banned the sale of cigarettes and alcohol, meanwhile the people that are working in government are selling the black market stuff and raking in millions of dollars. You know what I mean? They have an influence here. It's because there's another agenda there that people are turning away from. And I think that's what's going to happen with this Sam Bankman-Fried. I think he'll get a small case. He'll go to prison for like 1 or 2 years, go on house arrest because there's too much skin in the game for a lot of people. The craziest thing is when you see this Kevin O'Leary, which is obviously that famous entrepreneur that was on Shark Tank and comes across as a very astute and uprightist individual, where now he's in the spotlight of this whole FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried thing is because he came out and said, no, I lost $15 million. But meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried had paid him $15 million to be an ambassador for the brand, where he effectively invested $9 or $6 million, either of the two, I can't remember. And now he's saying that he also lost money and he feels just as unjust as everyone else should be. But then he goes in front of the courts and speaks about how Binance conspired to take down FTX, which is something we actually spoke about, where I wouldn't be surprised because Binance had come in and said, no, after we've done our due diligence, there's no way we can actually save this company. What does that send? It sends shockwaves through our investors, and that's when they started pulling out a lot of money. So the thing is that I'm sure this has always been the case throughout history, but it's just a lot easier for us to see now with the information that we have on hand. But it speaks to your point, and going back to the Logan Paul thing, people are seeing this, but no one's doing anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no protest like for Black Lives Matter. They lied to us about the vaccines. Or this, it's madness, dude. And it speaks to your point. We are moving at a million miles an hour, and everything that's happening now in the crypto and the NFT world will be forgotten about. Think of all the crap that happened last year that no one even talks about anymore. And it's no one's fault. Why would we want to do that? This is the world we live in now, and it's something that I feel like a lot of people aren't actually thinking about, or at least looking deeper at what is going on around us.
I totally agree, bro, and I think it aligns. Well, should I say it's akin to this notion of relevancy. Like if you look at any marketing platform, social media marketing platform, relevancy is a key metric in defining whether your content gets seen, more or less. Like let's say it's a metric between 0 to 10. So relevancy in reality is much the same, and this is probably what makes one not be controversial on their Instagram profile when they have like 1,000 of their friends following them, versus if you have 1 million of random people following you. Like, put it this way, if you got 1 million followers on Instagram and 500 of them are people you know deeply, the chances of you speaking your mind is a lot more, or should I say it's definitely more possible, purely because I feel the relevancy of the relationship is what impacts a person's controversialness, if that makes sense. So like, I'm not like, that's why I took the story down on Instagram, because I know that there's people on Instagram that will feel offended by what I stated, and they're not going to actually, and these are friends, they're not going to go and DM me and say, dude, I actually got offended by this. What's your stance on it? How you feel, whatever. They're just going to now hold
Let
a
me ask
grudge.
you this: if you had 1 million followers on Twitter now, would you have taken off? Just to add a bit more context here, I think just
No,
speak
I would
about
leave
it.
it on
Yeah,
then. Yes, because I
yeah,
do feel
okay.
that way.
But just so the people that are listening now can understand, just give the high level of what it is. And I have a comment on that, but I want you just to explain it to the people that are listening.
Yeah, look, obviously I went into a controversial statement when I tweeted against corporate Tate, Cobra Tate, I mean corporate. And like when I say controversial, it touched on religion in a way that is somewhat blasphemous. So this is when I moved it onto Instagram. I felt that my Instagram's more personal, it's more intimate, it's people I know. And then I felt like this, not that anyone like made anything of it or was, I just got this internal feeling that, there is someone I can offend that I know. And that's more impactful towards me than someone that I don't know. And I think this is what a lot of Twitter is. Like, if I look at Twitter, most of my followers are people I don't know. I don't have my mates from Instagram coming and following me on Twitter. It's because they're not into it. Twitter is about a conversation of intellect. There's people trying to converse in their ideas and how smart they are. And this is why a lot of the people that I know aren't in the space yet, purely because it's not an aesthetic space. Like most dudes that I follow and that I'm friends with are more about the aesthetic, more about the validation of Instagram or Facebook and that kind of thing. Whereas Twitter doesn't give you that directly. It takes time to build a repertoire for you to feel validated. But the conversation is what matters. It's like journaling. It allows you to speak your mind.
It's interesting that you're saying this because I was thinking about it, how we view Instagram, how we view LinkedIn, how we view Twitter, and how we use Facebook. So
yes.
How I view it now is I feel like Facebook is very old, and it's just a thing where I go on and I see what people that I used to know from high school are doing still to this day. And that's ironic because that's what Facebook was initially designed to do. But now that we've been out of school for such a long time, and typically when we had got Facebook, all our high school people were in it and using it, right? So those are the people that I don't have any relationships with any of those people, but I'm just interested to see where people are progressing in their lives. When you look at Instagram, which is one in which I feel like everyone feels like they can show their life, but they can always hide behind it in a way. I feel like we know that there's this facade and everything's unreal, but it truly feels like it the way I view it. Then you've got LinkedIn where you'll be very wary of what you say or what you post or what you like. It's insane. Like there's this level of like respect that you use and professionality. It is that, but it's also something like a discipline that comes within you. Almost like when you were talking to a lecturer, I get the same feeling when I talk to people on LinkedIn. It's not as tongue-in-cheek as Instagram can be. And then you get Twitter. The way in which I view Twitter, it's interesting how my perception of it has changed 360 from the first time I remember Twitter. So now I view Twitter as something that's almost something like where you're naked. You say something, everyone's going to see that. And now you need to be confident in your body. When someone sees you naked and you're not confident in your body, that's gonna ruin your mindset. But if you're a good-looking oak or a good-looking girl or whatever it may be, and you feel confident in your skin, there's nothing. But that's how I feel Twitter is. In order for you to garner that following and not have that situation where you feel like you're offending people that are close to you, you're going to have to get to that point where a person that is very confident in their own skin. I feel that's how I view Twitter. But the last thing I will say to this is, when I was living in Manchester, and I had that opportunity to do that presentation with the guys from Social Chain and Steve Bartlett, and he actually sat me down, and I didn't get through the final interview because I don't feel like I was equipped or I was very much in tune with what was going on in the social media world, specifically around Twitter. Instagram, I had it pretty much under wraps and my understanding of how I'd make it work. But he had asked me a question like, what are my thoughts on Twitter? And at that time, this was 2000 and 2017, probably 16 more. And my perception of Twitter was more like it had come and gone. Because there was a time when Twitter felt like it was almost on the downward spiral, almost like any other old, like maybe even like Angry Birds, like a game that was at its peak and whatever it is now, it just went under wraps. And I remember saying something to him like in a negative way, like I didn't see that it had a future. And obviously I was very naive, I didn't really think about it truly, and because I saw maybe someone intimidated by the question from him at that time. And he wasn't obviously at the stature that he's at now. He's interviewing the best people in the world. You should listen to his podcast, Direct the CEO. Fantastic. It's really good. But my point is like that interaction with him, with me, I think that he actually realized maybe I'm not fit for his company. But he said to me, and I'll never forget this, I see it as the modern day newspaper. The newspaper article. At that time, a lot of people would report like news and information. And look at what it is today. It truly is that, but it's on demand. Like it's relentless. And it's just interesting to see how people are leveraging Twitter now to create controversy, to aid them and benefit them in something that we probably don't even know yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I think like what you mentioned with social chain, I feel like that's perhaps one of those trick questions because that's how they made it, was through Twitter. So I think he probably had quite a personal attachment to the interface, and given in hindsight what it's become, it's much like, actually before I mention that, I feel that Twitter wasn't painted in the right light in Africa. And when I say that, like our social ecosystems and the people we know weren't using it in a way that other first world countries were using it. And I'm not trying to downplay specific countries, but I do think even till now, there's you and maybe like a couple oaks I know that are on Twitter. And I'm thinking, what the fuck, bro? I know gang people, but they don't have Twitter. And that's just because it might be just a South African thing. Like I'm speaking for myself right now and what I've seen, because I don't have much information regarding different parts of the world. But what I've seen from a South African point of view is that a lot of people aren't interested in it because they've been fed a different product, which is Facebook. Like South Africa, Facebook is fucking pumping, bro. And that's because they know that they can leverage the lower LSM market by introducing Facebook marketplace and all that kind of stuff. So this has become a very strong portfolio in Africa, and it's made people turn a blind eye to the Twitter space. There's a lot of African people on Twitter, but it's very controversial, and they call it Black Twitter. But yes, that's also a stigmatism that's come from local South Africa. That's saying but that's actually Twitter. It's not Black Twitter. Twitter is like that. If you're going to say something stupid, people are going to whack you, bro. If you're going to say something smart, people are going to dig it. That's just how it works. So this is also something that came to mind. I was like, a lot of brands in this country specifically don't want to turn to Twitter because they're scared of the scrutiny that comes with it. Like they'll tarnish the brand.
Speaks to that nakedness that I was telling you about now.
Yes, you can't
run and hide on Twitter like Instagram. I think people are more likely to screenshot your tweet than screenshot your picture. Yes, they do that. I get that. But I agree with you. I don't feel like we were exposed to Twitter the way the rest of the world was, or at least in countries like the United Kingdom or in the USA. Because you're quite right. Stephen obviously had a completely different opinion to what I had. And that's probably because at that time, we weren't using Twitter. I mean, and the way in which we view Twitter and why it didn't work, at least in the social circles in which we were a part of, is that with Twitter, you don't get as much instant gratification as you get with Instagram. Someone likes your thing, you can't really see if they're hot or not, or if it's this chick, or if it's this guy, she's wanting this guy. I think, and that's what people wanted Twitter to get out of Twitter, and obviously it didn't have that. And it was not intended for that. I remember Twitter back when it first came to light, at least in our social circles, was speak your mind. I'm looking forward to going to the gym. I'm looking forward to, I just had a great meal at this place. Meanwhile, these guys were already like, but the thing is, it might have been for people that were older than us that had more sense to talk about. Because if a younger person speaking on Twitter, I feel like that's why TikTok does so well, because it's tailored towards the younger adolescent. I don't know if Twitter is tailored towards the younger adolescent now. I'd be interested to see. I suppose there's people that can give me that stats, or we can just research it. But the stuff I see on Twitter is very much older generation, but very intellectual people leveraging this thing. And maybe there is people posting a whole bunch of crap, but obviously it's by virtue of the people that I follow or my interests where they lie. But I feel like Twitter has. I'm really fascinated to see what Elon does with this, because for him to invest that kind of money that he did, even if he wanted to back out of it, people may argue, he wanted to back out and he was obligated to get in.
Yes.
What, that first time that he thought of it, this could be a fucking great idea. What was that? And is he running ahead with that? Maybe it's changed. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for someone of that nature, yes, you could argue that it's a big mistake and now it's impacting Tesla shares. But I think it's all going to come together eventually.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like Tesla's doing some work with SpaceX. SpaceX is doing some work with Solar Cities. Tesla's doing some work with, now it's no longer Solar Cities, it's Tesla now. Twitter will become some form of asset to those organizations. I just don't know what yet.
Well, that's the valid point, and I think that's exactly why he bought it. He didn't buy it to make money off it. I don't think he's in a position where he wants to make more money. I think he's in a position where he wants to make things more homogenous for himself and for his community. So this is where Twitter becomes a big move in the chessboard, because everyone on Twitter, especially those that believe in it still, are looking to him as a leader more than how they look to him whereas he was just a Tesla dude. Like, you really think people are so interested in hearing what Mark Zuckerberg has to say on the day-to-day, besides his fans? No. But people on Twitter are so curious about what the fuck Elon's going to have to say. So he's actually becoming the pseudo, like, rebellion leader in a way. Like, he's trying to conjure a community that makes him just, if not more powerful than governments. Because if you really look at it, like we mentioned with Logan Paul, influence is quite a bit of the game. If you have a lot of influence and you got a lot of money and you got all the fucking you got your hands in electric vehicles, you got your hands in space shit, you got your hands in solar panels on roofs, dude, you're starting to actually meet the prerequisites of what defines a kingdom. So this is where I think he's trying to get to, is to position himself in the future so that he doesn't need to bow the knee to anyone. Whether that's the President of America, who gives a fuck? That's where I feel like he's going. And for him to be able to call out people in the fashion that he has kind of justifies his mission in a way. And this is what leads us back to the whole Twitter, is that it's basically like buying a marketing platform for your other products. If that makes sense. Because Tesla's dropped, but that's purely because of typical economics. It does that all the time, bro. And Tesla's gonna, based on, if I looked at the graph yesterday, and it's looking like it's gonna bang, bro. So
yeah, no, I agree. It's funny because my friend Adam had actually put a graph of Tesla up against Apple in the first years that it was listed. It's following a similar trajectory. I don't think you could say the same. The minute Tesla is getting into Africa and stuff like that, which we'll all do in the next few years, I think it will become almost like the next Apple in its own right. But we've come to the end of our first episode of 2023, Jonah. Actually thoroughly enjoyed that, man. That was perfect.
I was sick, eh?
All right, so everyone that's listening, please like and subscribe, share it if you like. We'll put the information of the videos that we had showed early on if it doesn't come through now. John, excited for the next the next year ahead with the podcast. We will try to change it up and bring some additional guests on. And yeah, any other comments you may have, please leave it in the comment section and let us know. Jono, as always, any parting remarks?
Oh, bro, like, I feel that I'm not going to come up with a slogan, but more just a word. And that's a word of gratitude, bro. And I feel like if you can just find gratitude in the smallest things, we can start to find an essence in life, bro. And like, there's a lot of commotion happening in and around us, and we just need to be grounded. And this is where it's at, bro. So gratitude to all, my man, and to all the peeps.
No, I love that. I really like it. And I think now, starting of the new year, when a lot of people have resolutions, and I think the key thing for me this year is to focus on the mind and see how I observe the thoughts that are actually not my own thoughts, because as Eckhart Tolle speaks about, you are not the thoughts, you are the observer of these thoughts. And it's something that we know. It's so amazing. Something that we know, but we don't often practice. And I feel like being grateful takes you a point of presence. And if you are able to maintain that throughout the day, even on an hourly basis, imagine being present every hour of the day. How insane your results would be. But anyway, thanks to everyone.
Yeah.
Look out for the next episode. Jono, take care. See you
Much
soon.
love, Mikey. Ciao, everybody.